Okay. Yeah. Yay. Sweet, we got one person so far, so let me put a little reminder. Okay. This computer is very, very slow. Please excuse the slowness. Okay. Good. We got some more people. Sorry for I had to post over on Facebook that we are starting, and just finished up, dinner with the family and ended our fast for this election cycle. Hopefully they'll count the votes honestly, and that there won't be any more further issues regarding the Bullets app that the GOP is using for the state convention. And hopefully our liberties and freedom can start being restored soon. But once again, like what we have done in the other town halls is question and answer. So whatever questions you have, please feel free and comment in the live chat box as to what your questions are, and I will do my darndest to answer them. And hopefully we can have a great conversation regarding the comment and answer section, in this video, like we have had in many other videos so far during this convention process. So once again, feel free and comment, leave a question in the live chat, and I'll do my best to answer them. But I don't know where to begin here. Well, we could always begin with the phone call that I took before I sat down to dinner with the family. I don't think the lady liked my answer very well, but it had to do with Governor Herbert's response over this COVID-19, or what I like to call it, CCP virus. since this Chinese Communist Party did create it as a biological weapon to attack us. And I stated to her, like I've been stating to everyone else, that that Governor Herbert is ranked the 15th most friendliest governor to the Chinese Communist Party, and that's according to documents that came out of Beijing recently. And since we have family and friends in mainland China, the same. I know firsthand the tactics that they've been using are the exact same tactics that they've been utilizing in this state. Difference is China, they're trying to hide the fact, and in Utah, they're trying to contain this virus. But still, bad tactics are still bad tactics. It's still illegal tactics here. We should never have to shut down the economy, and we should never have to violate constitutional rights, protect constitutionally protected rights during times of crises or times of war. And that's what this thing is the beginning stages of a war. We've been attacked. A true leader does not issue edicts from the top down. And where the lady had an issue with my answer was regarding Governor Herbert's edict mandating that renters could not evict tenants until May 1st, which is extremely extreme violation of property rights. The Constitution is supposed to protect life, liberty, property, and like St. George Tucker, one of the renowned constitutional scholars in the founding era, stated, and I'm paraphrasing when I say this, that the three great freedoms that we enjoy from God, that the Constitution is supposed to protect, are life, liberty, property, and when any two of the three are violated, then that at that point it's the same as being a slave. And I'm sorry, we are not slaves. No, we are not slaves. We're not supposed to be, and that's not our God-given intent from God. We're supposed to be free men, free to choose right from wrong, free to help our fellow brother out, to be united as one, to proclaim the gospel, but also to help our fellow brothers. Regardless of what they believe. But we're supposed to be free men, and free men have a right to the property. We cannot have our liberty without having our life, and we cannot practice in our liberties if we don't have free access to our property. They all three go hand in hand. So life, liberty, property must be protected at all cost. That's the Constitution. Simple. But that's what the lady had the issue with. Rent control, basically. The Herbert's executive order, and the executive orders are technically unconstitutional. But yes. Continuing on, and I'll continue on, and hopefully someone will pose a question in the live chat section, and I'll answer the question. But Governor Herbert's responses have been exactly what the Chinese Communist Party has done. Then again, we can go into the import aspect of things. After the passage of the import, the first legislation in 2018, the expansion in 2019, and they spent $9 million on it without it without it being constructed yet last year alone. And after the passage of the biggest tax hike in Utah history in December, many of the legislators filed on their campaign disclosures campaign delegational trips to Beijing. So what was talked about? In the legislation for the inland port, they aligned it with the federal law that was passed in 1932 regarding foreign free trade zones, meaning a foreign nation can come conduct business on our soil and be exempt from our laws. In 2019, when they expanded this inland port, the inland port can go anywhere in the state of Utah, seizing property through the means of eminent domain, which is unconstitutional. And the property owner only has a 10-day appeal process before the inland port's on board. That's communism. The inland port, is funded with 50% gas tax, usage taxes, and 50% of the sales tax revenue. A complete boondoggle, taxpayer boondoggle, but corrupt none the least, as well as the 100% leftover property tax dollars, from the individual counties. By rainy day fund, property tax. So property tax, sales tax, gas tax is funding a large percentage is funding the inland port. So what about our roads that the gas tax is supposed to pay for, or the schools that the property tax is supposed to pay for? Nonetheless, forget the fact that I'm wanting to abolish the income tax and property tax, but they'll corrupting the revenue stream. So that yes, the inland port needs to go away. And I personally would love to see an investigation of treason behind certain elected officials. In fact, Herbert spent time in China promoting, getting buddy with the CCP. Same thing with Huntsman. Is though, of course, that again is though any doubt that Huntsman, Herbert, not just endorsed Cox, but all of the original campaign staff that helped Herbert get elected are now working for Huntsman, and Huntsman has bought up every ounce of advertising dollars on billboards, on the radio, on televisions, going forward after this convention. He is the Manchurian candidate, and he must be stopped. And not to mention that both Huntsman and Mike Lee helped expand the EB-5 visas. And the EB-5 visa is a new visa that was created in 1992 for foreigners that have over 900,000 US dollars, and specifically for the Chinese. And I love the Chinese. It's those the difference between Chinese people and the lying murderous CCP government, the Chinese Communist Party, and only the CCP in China has that type of US dollar amounts to come over under the EB-5 visas. Yeah, once again, feel free and post a comment in the live chat. But if you have any questions, and I'll answer them. But I'll continue talking about this espionage and takeover of our state that needs to be drained and restored. And that's what I'm seeking, myself and my running mates seeking to do, is drain the Utah swamp. You can go to draintheutahswamp.com or send us an email regarding any questions as well. Jason at draintheutahswamp.com. But but let me think that it's in the report EP5 visas. Yeah, there's a lot of topics. In fact, State Senator Andrew, and many others, many of the Utah swamp wants to pass a multi-billion-dollar light rail system down to southern Utah, and never mind the fact that the FBI are working on a special project. I, I'm down there. I can't disclose what, nor do I have the information on what, because it's an investigation. But they are working on the project down there, and if we read in the 2019 U.S. Senate report on investigations on the U.S. on the 1,000 talent agenda, which is the CCP's goal to not just espionage in this country, every aspect of this of our country, but what state departments would you scale back or eliminate? That was a whole lot of state departments that needs to be eliminated or scaled back. But GOED would be a nice one to eliminate as well, since Herbert has been abusing the tax dollars and funneling money into GOED for special interest agendas. But there's a lot of departments that need to be scaled back on and cut. For example, UTA and UDOT, the top executives make over $500,000 a year, plus thousands of extra benefits and travel expenses. So yes, UTA and UDOT needs serious reform as well. Needs serious reform. With how I want to abolish the state income tax and property tax, that's another department that could be cut back on and scaled back on, is the tax commission. There's but yeah, those are a lot of departments that could be scaled back on. We don't need government to create jobs. Government only destroys jobs, or if government gets out of the way, the free market creates jobs. So yes, government can be there to protect life, liberty, property, get out of the way for business to create jobs, and all of us have more money in our pockets after that. Or government can continue to grow, and destroying everything in its path. So, but my first agenda is to, regarding the budget and in the state departments, is to make it mandatory to adopt zero-based budgeting. Currently, governments and government agencies utilize what's called baseline budgeting, the same type of budgeting practices that Lehman Brothers top executives went to jail over, which means they off of forecast for the next year, they make a budget to be within those forecasts, and that's not how you account for things, make accounting for things. So yes, they claim that Utah's the best managed state in the union. That's grading on a curve. Zero-based budgeting is the same type of accounting practices that you and I do in our homes and our businesses, meaning at the end of the year, every account gets reset to zero, and or the beginning of the year, but every account gets reset to zero, and the revenues that are coming into the state pay for what needs to be paid for first, and anything extra that people would like to have, but we don't have the money. We can either pay for, or we have to cut. I prefer cut. I prefer to, with the revenues that are coming in, pay for what needs to be paid for first, and then dedicate a certain large amount for a rainy day fund. Um, and part of that rainy day fund, we need to invest in gold reserves. So yes, we could pay, as part of the rainy day fund, but I also want to get lead the legislature to change the code, the tax law, um, regarding to. In fact, we don't actually take it back. We don't need to change the tax code um, regarding to this issue, because we can simply enforce the Utah Sound Money Act of 2010, and companies like Rio Tinto, that's mining, one of the biggest gold mines in the world, pay those taxes in gold, so they would be free to use the greenback and greenbacks and other investments that they, or operational expenses, but pay those taxes, if not the utilities, and gold that they harvest and mine out of that mine. That way we could be acquiring the gold at a much cheaper rate without stealing, to either back up our own state currency that I want to create, the Utah dollar, as well as gold reserves for the coming storm that's coming. Because things are going to get bad. Things will get a whole lot worse before things get a whole lot better. Government, because of its shenanigans, propping up the boom and bust cycle in economics, printing trillions of dollars for a long time, either if it's QE 1, 2, 3, 4, or what some are calling the current quantitative easing, infinity. It's insane. You cannot continue printing money, debasing the currency, and not expect severe ramifications. The coming economic collapse is coming. We also have, coming, and part of this coming storm is food shortages and medical supplies and medicines. So now is the time to not give money to encourage businesses or people, but utilize tax deferred credits for businesses, 3M, big companies, whatever, to come into Utah for pharmaceutical, as well as medical supplies, creating the necessary medicines and medical supplies that we need, as well as commercial farms. And then, but not just that, but encourage the citizenry to rise up and start businesses to do this as well, to create your own victory farms, or farm co-ops with your neighbors. But we need food, medicine, and supplies, and it needs all of us to do that, not government. The only thing government can do is get out of the way and incentivize with tax deferred credits and slash taxes. Okay, sorry. Next question. Would I transfer the rainy day funds into your proposed state bank? If the state bank idea is would be a compromise type of deal. I would much rather prefer a fractional banking system where the state creates its own investment fund to help, where it can make money off the interest payments off student loans, car loans, business SBA loans, mortgages, etc. But if we went the route of a state bank, then yes, every single account, every single loan that the state currently has would be transferred into that bank, and which would save the state millions, but it would also make the bank a legitimate bank at that point. If you look at the bank standards that's out there, and yes, the Federal Reserve Bank would hate us for doing it, but I don't care. It's the right thing to do. The Federal Reserve has been debasing our currency for the last 100+ years. The Federal Reserve is what put us into the fiscal crisis that we are currently suffering from, and we have suffered from back in 08 and other time periods in recent history. But yes, if that was the compromise of creating a state bank, it would be citizen owned, and to benefit the Utah citizens, to benefit Utah businesses only, and transfer all the state accounts and loans into the bank to save millions. Let's see. What's the next question? But good questions, though. Thank you. Yeah, slashing and cutting government regarding the state departments, scale back or eliminate, which I'm always in favor of scaling back, if not eliminating. Zero-based budgeting, rainy day funds, gold funds, state dollar. Good topics, good questions. Thank you. Let's see what other questions, or I could probably keep talking about different issues. But okay, going back to the preparedness, we need food, medical supplies, and medicines for what's coming, as well as sound money and gold. But we also need to be prepared in defense. And part of that defense is restoring the Second Amendment. Any legislation that violates our right to bear arms, to buy and sell, trade arms and ammunition is illegal and needs to be repealed. So yes, I would absolutely sign a constitutional carry law in the state, but I would also unravel the agreement made back in the 1980s to eliminate our state militias. I want to restore our state militias. We need our state militias for times of crisis, either for the defense of our borders, but also in defense of our liberty and freedoms. We need our state militia restored in order to distribute aid to those in need in times of crisis, or to help fight the fires during fire seasons during these times of crisis. For example, a couple years back, when Utah County and Salt Lake County was surrounded by fighters, which leads me to the next point. And I will answer in additional questions as they come into the live chat. So feel free and ask additional questions. But the state lands, there's too much talk. That's all we hear about, taking back our lands, but no action. It's time for action. It's time to amend our state constitution and taking back our lands that was stolen from us at statehood. Every square inch of land in the state of Utah needs to be in Utah's control. So yes, our park system, we can is a, we would generate a whole lot more money if we didn't have to share it with the federal government, as well as the land that shouldn't be part of the preservation space of land. We need to legalize and bring back the solution, the topic of homesteading, allowing people to move out into the land, to ranch it, to take care of the land, which would also reduce wildfires as well. Oh, hey Drew, Drew's online. My Lieutenant Governor choice, Drew Chamberlain, is online. So if anyone has questions, feel free to ask. He can help explain questions or explain the duties of the Lieutenant Governor's office. But he stated Irish volunteers could help with forest fires, which exactly right. Militias, the state militia, all of us would be volunteers in the state militia, would be able to do just that. But so thank you, Drew. But yes, it's a volunteer effort. But yes, homesteading. In the housing crisis, great. Allow people to homestead. And same thing with the food supply. Let's bring in the ranchers. Let's bring in a lot more ranchers. Allow people to homestead the land and ranch cattle to boost up and increase our food supply in the state. We need food supply and we need medical. We need insulin supplies and medicines. We need some money for the coming storm that's coming, as well as defense, the state militias. No, I have not talked about bylaw 8, Drew. What Drew is referring to is the Republican Party and the bylaws that all candidates agreed to abide by, those bylaw 8, and which means the candidate is agreeing with the platform, as well as running through the caucus convention system without collecting signatures, which means Thomas Wright, Huntsman, Cox, two of which I've already referenced in this town hall, they're not true Republicans. In fact, if they really wanted to run for office and bypass the caucus convention system, they could have easily done it as unaffiliated candidates, not as Republicans. So why the need to claim the Republican name? Next question. What would you do to root out corruption in the Utah executive branch? Good question. Good question. With an executive branch, that would be very, very easy. For starters, I've always liked the idea of making every single person within the office itself reapply for their jobs. Meaning they have to go through the application process all over again. And if they don't do a good job in the application process, then they don't get the job back. But that's first things first, and on the first day of business, of course. But the departments, I can take my nicely sharpened axe and start slashing and cutting away at the different departments that fall underneath the executive branch, especially when it comes time for the budgets every year, which is mandated by the state constitution. The corrupt, if one agency is corrupt beyond means, you're just gonna have to start on money, either be cut out, eliminated either completely eliminated or starve for tax revenue until you fire the people that need to be fired. But the solution is the budget, utilizing the budget, utilizing zero-based budgeting, and cutting the waste, fraud, and abuse right out of government. That is the governor's job. Sole job is to maintain his office, not to overstep the bounds with the legislature, even though state law, the Constitution, mandates the governor and the legislature to sign off on the budget, which means I could play hardball and say, oh, no, I'm not going to sign off on the budget until you apply zero-based budgeting to this budget. And we see actual cuts. It's that simple. Also hold the budget ransom, as it were, regarding the 1,000+ pieces of legislation proposed every year. Say, no, it's not right. Make up your mind what's actually important, then run that bill. And then we can talk about that bill. Before as I'm reading, studying it, make sure there's nothing illegal or unconstitutional in that bill. We can discuss about the bill itself, but pick your most important topics. Don't pass 1,000+ bills a year. Introduce 1,000+ bills a year. Same thing with my agenda. We need to amend the state constitution regarding the lands, and including the abolishing the state income tax and property tax. So hold the budget ransom until we can come to the table, either come to the table with breakfast, lunch, whatever it is, spend all day discussing how to get my agenda passed, which is, legalizing freedom, abolishing income tax and property tax, instituting zero-based budgeting, etc., etc., etc. I hope that answers your question, but that was very good questions. Lots of good questions on the budget and taxes. The last 3 videos. So let me think. What else? We talked about lands. We talked about guns. We talked about budgets and taxes and gold. Talked about SB bylaw 8 and SB 54 absolutely needs to be repealed. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Those are reason why when I filed through the caucus convention route, and no matter what political race I've ran for, I've always done caucus in convention route. Not because of the party, no, because of what it's supposed to represent. The founders of our country gave us a representative republic for a reason, not a democracy. And SB 54 does exactly that. It promotes a democracy, big money to control and corrupt the system. So yes, SB 54 needs to be flat out repealed in order for us to stay true to the founders' creation of this representative republic, and so that we can have good governance of people electing their representatives to go on to elect their representatives to go on to elect their representatives. In fact, we could even tweak the state constitution to go even further, more in line with the founders as well of representative republic. Good question, Drew. Lockdown of the economy or the next pandemic? Well, like I stated in the beginning of the video, government should never shut down government should never shut down the economy, should never violate the Constitution during times of crisis or times of peace. Never. The Constitution gives us the solutions to all of our problems. We just have to, stop, have the civil dialogue. We have, those are reason why all the founders were extremely well read. They were free thinkers. We too must be well read. We too must be free thinkers. We too to think outside the box of how legally the Constitution gives us solutions for all of our problems. And we cover several problems in this town hall right now. With state militia, tax deferred credits, getting government out of the way, tax credit, tax cuts, the institution of gold and gold-backed currency, the fractional banking system, but yeah, the Constitution gives us solutions. We just have to be the free thinkers to utilize the Constitution. So yes, you could say the current majority of the politicians out there right now are not free thinkers because they continue to violate the Constitution. In fact, they don't care about the Constitution. Most of the politicians out there. So, let me think. It's now 42 minutes. I'm out of ideas, but if there's any other question, I will answer. We've had several leaks and several people on watching this right now, but is there any further questions before we call it a night? This is the last town hall. I figured Saturday's gonna be, people just want the Saturdays together and want they'll Saturday free time and vote early, finish voting in the morning. So yes, I do favor a fractional reserve banking system instead of a centralized bank idea. But given the state of the legislature, we have to be extremely careful if we adopt a state bank as to what goes inside of it. But we could go along with that. My preference would be to have a sunset clause in there, a sunset clause that says that we will go from, progress from the state bank to a fractional banking system. But that's in the discussion compromise aspect of things. But I prefer a fractional banking system instead of a central bank system within the state of Utah. Okay, maybe I got my terms mixed up then. Okay, let me rephrase what I state. Not fractional, but deflation, not decentralized. Meaning the state sets the code for the state bank system in the state. I'll just use that terminology instead. My apologies, but decentralized bank instead of a centralized bank. But once again, just goes right into the actual discussions in the legislation to make sure nothing bad goes in, and that we can quickly move to something more liberty-minded in the future, very, very easily. But yeah, decentralization is the term I'm going to use. But yeah, I didn't mean fractional. So the slip of the tongue. My apologies. Um, I hope that answers questions, but um, and of course, then again, what we need is honest politician, honest statesmen that's actually seeking to do the right thing, not for power and control. And since I wanted to tear down the Babylonian wall and legalize freedom, yeah. But yeah, if there's any further questions, feel free and ask them. In the live chat. If not, feel free and shoot me an email. Jason at draintheutahswamp.com. Jason at draintheutahswamp.com. Feel free and shoot me an email. Or text message or call me 801-400-1488 if you have any further questions. But before I close, the part I did receive an email earlier today and last night that about 1,000 people have not registered to vote. Register with the GOP app. If you don't have a smartphone or have problems with that app, the party is allowing people to call in for a voice vote. And trust me, I have my deep concerns over the integrity of this election. That's why, my family and others have done a prayer and fasting for today. Of which case, feel free, if you haven't done prayer and fasting for the restoration of liberty and freedom, or for this campaign, or for the election to be counted, for the votes to be counted honestly, or for the app to work well, by all means, please start your fast before you go to bed tonight. And yes, please register, get credentialed tonight, tomorrow morning, and cast your vote. Hopefully, I earn your place as the first choice in the ranked choice voting. But with either way, if the votes are counted honestly, we stand a huge chance of winning this thing. Maybe, if not in the first round, I'm thinking more or less in the third or fourth rounds. But prayer and fasting for the cause. So if there's nothing else, have a wonderful evening and get some sleep. And by all means, please join my family in the prayer and fasting and start your prayer and fasting for tomorrow. Pray for honest election. Pray for and fast for an honest election, and that the process, the bugs in the process will be fixed. That the votes will be counted honestly, and that liberty and freedom will be restored throughout our state and our country. Thank you. Both myself and Drew, thanks you. And I should explain briefly before I close that I chose Drew because he was one of you, a delegate, before the party stripped his delegate status away this year. He is very much against the swamp. You cannot drain the swamp by being associated with the swamp. So that's one reason I chose him, and another reason is because he is honest. everyone you talk to will say that he's honest. And third, he knows elections. He served as the party secretary some years back, so he knows how elections work. So, with this being said, feel free to email me, call me, and let's not be strangers. Let's talk often. Thank you, my friends. Bye.